Name one watch brand that regularly names its models after rich, white Ivy League kids. I'll give you a hint. It's a company given its name because everybody should be able to own a watch. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Anthony, the very humble horologist. And this week, we are going to be looking at a beautiful watch, one that I'm happy to own, but one that's left me with a nagging question. Where did it get its name? But before we look at the watch itself, let's talk a little horo history. In 1894, a Swiss watchmaker, Rudolf Schmid, or Schmidt, moved to Yokohama, Japan. There, he would become a leading merchant selling Swiss watches, or kits to make them, which were assembled in Japan. And this was a clever way to get around Japanese embargoes meant to protect local watch companies who struggled trying to compete with cheap imports from Switzerland. Now, how ironic is that? 2 decades later, a Tokyo jeweler named Kamakichi Yamazaki would create the Shikosha Watch Research Institute. In 1923, at the Tokyo Commemorative Peace Exhibition, Shoko, made an impressive showing, especially as a newcomer, even giving Seiko a run for their money, and Seiko had already been making watches for 27 years. The next year, Yamazaki and Shokosha would release their first commercially available pocket watch, the Caliber 16, a watch praised by the then young Emperor Hirohito. The name of the watch? Citizen. The name Citizen was actually trademarked in Geneva by none other than Rudolf Schmidt in 1918. But this watch was given the name Citizen on the suggestion of the mayor of Tokyo, Shinpei Goto. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. His hopes were that all citizens would one day be able to own a watch, which was something of a luxury at that time in Japan. Unfortunately, the Shikosha Watch Research Institute could not compete financially and nearly went bankrupt. However, in 1930, Rudolf Schmid, along with some investors, some of which were American, others Swiss, merged with Yamazaki's company and formed what is now known as the Citizen Watch Company. It was almost like destiny. Fast forward to August of 2017 and the release of what I have with me today, one of my favorite watches. Let me introduce you to the Citizen Model CA0649-06X, or better known as the Bryson. I first saw this watch in a jewelry store in a mall. Yes, it was a mall watch. However, the ivory dial with the subdials and orange accents caught my eye, and I was in love. Not the one and only for all time kind of love, but you know what I mean. I couldn't afford it then, but 2 years later, I tried to purchase this model online from Joma Shop. Unfortunately, a back order knocked me out of that deal. So later, I saw one at Costco, and I swooned over it, especially since they had it cheaper than what I could have got it at Joma Shop. But it was only last year that I was able to get this pristine model from a friend on a Facebook group. What we have is a vertically brushed 44 millimeter stainless steel case surrounding an ivory dial that features a 1/5 second 60-minute chronograph and a 24-hour subdial. The bezel is not aluminum, but polished steel. It's only aluminum coated. The crystal is scratch-resistant mineral, not sapphire, and the lovely 22 millimeter hickory brown leather strap is made of calf skin. Lug to lug is 51.5 according to my measurements, and the total thickness comes to about 12.2 millimeters. Now, one interesting measurement is the difference between the bezel width and the width of the case back. Notice how the size of the case tapers from a smaller 42 millimeter at the back to a wider 44 millimeter at the bezel, a full 2 millimeters difference. Inside is the caliber B612, an eco-drive movement that is powered, of course, by any source of light, which I believe is often underappreciated. I do enjoy the way it feels on my wrist. The supplied strap is above average for a watch in this price range, I think. Now, it's not a dive watch, so there's not a lot of lume, but at least, the hour and the minute hand are nicely readable in the dark, which is just fine. Now I have a 7.5-inch wrist, and it looks great to me, especially in the glow of the setting sun. However, the 44 millimeter case and the 51.5 lug to lug might look a little bit overwhelming on a small wrist. But why Bryson? Grand Seiko has the Snowflake because they have a watch with a dial that looks like freshly fallen snow. Orient has the Komatsu because the indices, look like barracuda's teeth. But why Bryson? Did they name this watch after someone famous, someone beloved, like a relative of one of the founders of the company? Somebody had to know. I called Citizen. I actually talked with a regional rep that stopped by our jewelry store, and I searched the internet for hours, but nobody had an answer. And this just made me more curious. Then I thought, well, maybe there's something to the name that resembles the watch. Is it Bryson-ish? So I Googled or Binged or whatever, in the hopes that something Japanesey would pop up. After all, Citizen is a Japanese brand, right? The only Japanese-related Bryson I could find was a Pokemon character, an icy blue kid that likes to exercise. So that couldn't be it. Surely not. So then I looked for a definition. Maybe there was something inherent about the name. That's when I found out that as a boy's name, Bryson is a Welsh name. And the meaning of Bryson is descendant of Bryce. Well, that wasn't helpful. Okay, so what does Bryce mean? Essentially speckled or dotted. That led me to conclude and assume two things. First, either the Citizen Brycen was named after a Pokemon character with chicken pox, or the Citizen Watch Company has a fascination with the ultra-white, upper-middle-class Ivy League American names. If you don't believe me, Bryson isn't the only blue-blooded silver spoon name they've used. They've also got the Addison, the Carson, the Chandler, the Endicott, the Garrison, the Peyton, the Roland, and Series 8. Well, that last one probably came from Stranger Things, but all I can say is don't be surprised if you see the Citizen Buffy, Bambi, the Beauregard, or something like that in the not-too-distant future. So, do you have any more information about Citizen watch names? Any theories? What do you think about this particular Citizen watch? Let me know in the comments. Hey, I'm new to the YouTube thing, so your likes and subscriptions would be really appreciated. And if you would like to contribute to the channel, I would love to be able to upgrade here and there and maybe pick up a new watch once in a while. All you need to do to support the channel, besides like and subscribe, is buy me a cup of coffee. God bless. See you next week. And remember, watches are replaceable, but time is not.